What's up, Tube? Welcome back to Low Guido's Chop Shop, the second best gel blaster channel on the tubes. And today I've got a bit of a video about 3D printing. So it's becoming increasingly popular to 3D print parts for your blaster that aren't necessarily available, or maybe you just want to customize your thing, get a bit of personality into it. This is for the Lihui MPX that featured in a video of mine recently. This particular handguard is available. This is a Superpoo handguard. It's available on Thingiverse from Superpoo. Go check it out. Go give Superpoo some props, some support. I think can you tip on Thingiverse? If you can tip, you should tip as well on Thingiverse. Go give Superpoo some props. He does some great work. He is literally the god of gel blaster aesthetics. Like, there is no one better than Superpoo. It's a fact. I'm increasingly jealous of his abilities. He can take blasters and make them look insanely good. And he is also a great 3D modeler apparently as well, because he's got a lot of good 3D modeling stuff. Some of it awesome and some of it blurst. But this is one of his handguards for the MPX, and this is fresh off the printer. I haven't done any post-production on it, but you may notice if you zoom in, there is a little bit of areas that need attention. So if you look here, you know, you can see a little bit of spider webbing stringing inside there, and areas that obviously require some sort of support, like up here in the pick rails. These pick rails are actually a real pain to print, but yeah, being that this side here is supported, the support area needs to be cleaned up. Also the bottom, I printed on a raft, so the bottom is fully supported as well, and you may not have to do that. Inside all of these needs a bit of cleanup. Now the stringing can be easily gotten rid of with just a heat gun. If you just really quickly, high temperature, or a lighter, just really quickly run a lighter over the top of it, you'll get rid of those strings like quick smart. But just don't hold the lighter there for too long, because you can actually damage the print. Okay, hopefully you can see this with the angle. I'm just gonna real quickly light in there, and you see the stringing is just gone. It disappears. So any of the minor spider webs or whatnot that you might get, just a real quick blast will make them disintegrate. Any other large chunks we're going to work on with a hobby knife. I got this cool hobby knife set. I actually picked it up from Aldi of all places. Got all the different shapes of blades and whatnot. So any other, you know, just large chunks that might need a bit of attention, just go through and just quickly cut them off. It's not too much. This is actually a pretty clean print. There's not much going on that needs attention. There is a little couple little blobs here. Just give them a clean up with the knife. And then we'll move on to the really fun part. So, the elephant in all the 3D printing rooms is layer lines. You can see the layer lines. some people don't care too much about them. Other people do. Yeah, they can make a really good, I mean, these are exaggerated from the lighting that I've got here. Like, I mean, this is pretty clean, but still, if you get the right light, you can see there's some layer lines. So, what are we going to do about that? Alright, so if you want to get rid of layer lines, there's going to be a lot of sanding in your future, and it's an unfortunate fact. There's many other ways that people have done with, like, you know, chemical smoothing and that sort of thing, but I find the best result is just some good old-fashioned elbow grease sanding. So you're going to need to get yourself some sanding blocks. Now, I have printed some various shapes and sizes of sanding blocks that I've found to be useful for these types of items. And these are not my designs, these are off Thingiverse. I'm going to put links to all these in the description. Props where they're due, go check them out. But yeah, I found these ones are particularly good. This one here is really good for like angles on pick rails and stuff, getting in there. This one I kind of modified specifically for getting in between the pick rails. I actually printed this off and then ground it back, so I'd probably in hindsight just go and redesign this slightly in CAD so it's got a thinner nose, and then yeah, either way, these I'll leave links. You're going to need yourself some sanding blocks. You're also going to need some sandpaper. Now, the grit on sandpaper gets a lot of people confused. Everyone knows that the lower the number, the rougher it is, and the higher the number, the smoother it is. That bit's CDF. But yeah, there's a lot of, like, you know, do I really have to, like, sit here with the 100 grit, and then the 200 grit, then the 300 grit, then the 400 grit? Well, yeah, you kind of do. But if you're like me and you ain't got time for that, you like to kind of take shortcuts, and this probably isn't the best way, but look, this is the way I do it. So if you're like me and you just want to get it smooth and you want to take a few shortcuts, okay, I start off with, this is like a 180. This is like a 180. I just start off with that and give the initial part just a real rough rub over, and you can see straight away, you'll notice where the high spots and the low spots are in the layers, because the high spots are going to turn white and the low spots are going to stay black. So I mean, I'm just going to give this a real quick rub over with the 180, and then I'll come back. While I'm doing this here, I might mention why am I using a sanding block? Why am I using a sanding block at all? Why don't I just get the paper in my hand and do that? The reason you use a sanding block is because you need the flat surface to really bring out these lines. Because if you use your finger or a round soft surface, what you're doing is you're actually creating concave sanding surfaces, and so you can, like, say, sand in there, for example, and you'll get that. Like, if I grabbed a piece of sandpaper with my finger and started rubbing in there, I'll get that. But the problem is it's not going to be flat and level with the rest of this, so you really need a flat surface to rub it out, to get rid of those, well, you're getting rid of the high spots basically and making them in line with the low spots. So inevitably for the round sections here, you will need to use your finger and a bit of sandpaper on your finger there, because if you use a flat surface there, then you're going to flatten off your round bits, and So you want to keep your flat bits flat and your round bits round. That's the main take from this, if I'm trying to teach anything that I'm not an expert in. Alright, so I've been at this for no more than 10 minutes, giving it a rough once over, taking the top off of it, you know, just roughed it back so that there's a degree of smoothness to it. We're not trying to get it super smooth right now, straight off the bat. We are just taking the edge off of it. And now I'm going to apply some primer filler. So this is the stuff I've got here. It's SCA brand from Super Cheap Auto. Its cap is blue. Don't let that fool you because it's grey. Because it sure fooled me when I opened up the blue thing and sprayed it and it came out grey. But yeah, it is grey primer filler. And so this is, I found that this sticks quite well to printed parts. I guess different materials might be different, but you know, what it's best to do is just test on a small part. So to make sure that whatever paint you have or whatever primer you have is safe for that particular thing. I've tried this one on this particular brand of PLA that I've got and it works fine, so that's what I'm going with. Just a quick side note, before I spray this, I am going to clean this whole part down with some Prepsol and compressed air. I'm just going to blow all of the, use the compressed air to blow all of the loose debris that, you know, may have been caused by sanding, and then I'll get some Prepsol or wax and grease remover and just give it a rub just to make sure the surface is nice and clean, so you got the best chance of your primer sticking to it. If you got dirt on the surface, or not even dirt, but like dust from the sanding, then obviously the paint is going to not stick to the surface properly. So yeah, give it a good clean first. Pro tip from someone who's not a pro. So I've got one coat of the primer filler on here, and you can sort of start to see any issues that you might have, any areas that need attention are really going to start to stand out at this point. I've got some pinholes over here that you might be able to see. In here, I'm not sure if you can really see them, they are quite fine. And then on the end here, there's a bit of like layers from the raft and whatnot. In the Picatinny rail, there's always going to be a bit of cleaning up to do. I try to avoid spraying too much in the pick rails because you don't want to actually build those rails up too high, because it makes fitting your accessories a bit tight and difficult. But that's only one coat. I might put another coat on this, and then we'll see how it looks, and then we'll start to do some more sanding. I mean, the theory behind this sanding is pretty simple. If you've got a surface that looks somewhat like that, and then you spray a primer filler on it, it just covers the surface in the same sort of shape. It doesn't fill the gaps because it fills the peaks as well. So then we want to cut it back. And so the idea is, when we cut it back, we might cut back to some of the peaks, but the troughs will be filled, theoretically. Now this is where the magic starts to happen. Now I've got some 320 wet and dry being because I'm using it wet. So I'm putting it in a tray of water and using the paper wet. The reason I do it wet is because it cuts down on the dust created, cuts down on the mess created, and it also just gives a smoother finish, in my opinion. I think it cleans the chat out of the paper as well, which is really what you want. So yeah, you can put a guide coat on this, just a light black spray, so that you can see how much you've taken off, but ain't nobody got time for that. You know how this is, quick and dirty, just getting it done. So use your sanding block, and I'm just going to rub this back pretty much till I see plastic again, and that's going to be my guide coat, because I don't care if I rub it all the way back, because I'm going to be using Rust-Oleum 2X paint and primer, and this, again, I've tested on prints, and it primes and sticks quite well to the PLA that I'm using, so it doesn't matter if I rub all the way back to plastic. So you can see, starting to see some there. That's alright, doesn't matter, because that's kind of what I want. When I start to see the lines coming through, I know that I've hit that spot that I want to be at. And again, this doesn't have to take too long. You don't have to spend all night sanding it. Just get it done fairly roughly, because then we're going to go do maybe one more coat of the primer if we need to. If you can still see some deep lines in it, or if we've got some real big deep cuts, we'll get some putty. But yeah, it's just a bit of the old wet sand. Get it in there. It doesn't take too long, and like I said, I'm using 320. You could probably start rougher, and then work your way down. Like I said, ain't nobody got time for that. I ain't got time to buy different grades of paper. Minimal effort. Alright, so after a bit of sanding, you'll see some of the low spots are incredibly visible, because that's where all your fillers sitting. So you can see, if you looked at the low spots before you started sanding, you'll see that those spots are now getting filled. So just remember, like, try to keep it like a long stroke like that. So if you're doing a full flat face like that, try to keep it one long stroke all the way across, and not just like focus on one bit like this, because if you do that, then you're going to be taking that area deeper. And that goes especially for if you got parts that you're going to have to use your fingers for, like rounded corners. Don't dig in like this, because you're going to get this corner down rounded, and this is still sort of got the filler on it. So you want to do a stroke along the entire length, because you want to be taking the same amount off on the whole length, so you're not digging down and putting finger marks in and creating more low spots. That's why you use the flat sanding block wherever you can, obviously, to avoid pressure points and low spots that you unintentionally put in by applying too much in one spot. So just long strokes. Switch up your sanding blocks as well. So like, you're going to have little bits in here that are difficult to get to, so that's why I've got different sets of sanding blocks. I've got the narrow ones that can get in there, and this one's good for the Picatinny, getting in there. I mean, I haven't been at this for that long, I'm pretty impatient when it comes to these sorts of things. So basically, I'm just gonna, neaten up these pick rails a bit. I've still got to do this bit here with my fingers because I don't have a round block. So again, it's going to be a matter of just getting that back to black, so to speak. And once this is all cleaned off, you'll really be able to see how smooth that is. It doesn't look it at the moment because you can still see all the lines, but once the next coat goes on, trust me, you'll see it. I think most of the pinholes in this are actually filled up. It wasn't too bad. Like, there seems to be this deep spot here in a. I wonder if that's something to do with the stepper motor or the belt or something on my printer, because it seems like exact distances it goes a bit deep. So I don't know. It's interesting, but I'm just going to do that off camera. All right, here we go. We're out of the water. We're all dried off. Even got this little guy out for, like, in between the pick rails and whatnot. Yeah, just get some of these different size blocks to get in the little nooks and crannies. I always try to make sure that I file the pick rails right down to plastic again. Make sure you keep those tolerances, because it can be quite a tight fit for your attachments if you are planning on using it. So keep that in mind. But other than that, we're looking pretty good. Feels nice and smooth. Got in there all of these little M-lock spots, gave them a quick go over. Didn't go too hard on them. They were relatively clean. There's one that I missed. But yeah, we're looking relatively clean. I think everything's just about ready for top coat now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some wax and grease remover again. I'm going to make sure I clean all the slurry out of any gaps. Wash it off, rinse it off with water first, clean water. I've already done that. Then I'm going to wax and grease remover it, make sure there's no slurry left anywhere, and then I'll give it a top coat. Alright, I got the wax and grease remover here. Again, it's good old Super Cheap Auto brand. Super Cheap's just down the road, so easy for me to get to when I need stuff. This is awesome when you do this. I'm using a microfiber cloth as well. You can really see it sort of come up when you take all that dust off. I've already given this a once over, so it kind of already looks pretty good, but you can sort of see it start to bring out that shine. Microfiber cloth catches all the little fine particles of dust that might be kicking around in there. Of course, you probably should use gloves because you've got oil in your fingers, which if you're holding the part, you'd be contaminating it. But like I said, this is, for me, I'm just trying to get this done as quick as possible. This whole thing, even including the drying times of the primer and paint, has been all knocked out in one day, so can't complain. I'm always in a rush, so let's get going. Top coat time. Alright, we're back from the first coat of paint. How's that? Looking a lot better than it was, 15 minutes ago. It's not just good, it's good enough, man. That's good enough. For something that I can smash out in a day without too much effort, even including drying times, that is result. That's the result. I mean, I could probably go another coat on this. If I wanted to get picky, I could probably even sand it back and give it another really fine wet sand with some like 1200 grit or something, and then go for another coat. But nah, good enough for me. And I think in most cases it'd probably be good enough for you too. Like I reckon that's cool. I mean, I'm not going for a high sheen gloss reflective surface, because I mean it's a matte surface on a blaster anyway. So and I think that's pretty good. I'm happy with that result, and hopefully Super Poo is too. Hopefully you are too. Hopefully this has been an entertaining little video for you. Don't forget to hit up my face page if you want to buy a patch, and you can support my channel by buying me a coffee in the Buy Me a Coffee link below. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time. Peace.